Creating screen flows in Origami is easier than you might think, and still allows for some more complex interactions within screens. We're going to recreate the Instagram boomerang interface with scrolling behavior in one of the screens. It even has some of the more advanced iOS behavior, like this offset as the screen moves. Make sure you download the lesson files that come with this tutorial if you would like to follow along. If you're starting with the lesson files, you'll see that we have 3 screens set up already. If you need to add more, click on the New Layer button and type to find iOS screen. I've prepared all our screens to be presented, so right now they're stacked on top of each other. Let's click on Screen Share and change the start state to dismissed. Let's then restart our prototype by clicking on the Restart Prototype button in the Viewer toolbar, and then do the same thing for Screen Boomerangs. So click on Screen Boomerangs, change the start state to dismissed, and then restart so we can see what our start state actually looks like now. Our last screen is our main screen, and it's just a normal group, since it's not going anywhere. The first screen transition is from this screen main to Screen Boomerangs, so we need a hit area layer to take us there. I've already made one called Open Boomerangs, which is covering this thumbnail here in the viewer. Let me just turn on the setup mode so you can see what it looks like. Let's make that tappable by hovering over Open Boomerangs, clicking on Touch, and then clicking on Tap. Alright, so to connect this hit area to opening Screen Boomerangs, we can simply connect the tap output of the hit area to the present property of Screen Boomerangs. We don't need to add any switches, animations, or transition patches because the screens handles all of this for us. Alright, so let's give that a look. So now tapping on the thumbnail will open our boomerang screen. The next thing we need is a way to get back to our screen main. I've already made a hit area for this called Dismiss Boomerangs inside the Screen Boomerangs. Let me just turn that on so you can see what it looks like. Alright, so like before, let's make that interactive by hovering over Dismiss Boomerangs, clicking on Touch, and then Tap. I'm just going to move this down below the previous one. Alright, so this is going to affect Screen Boomerangs. So let's click and drag on the tap of our new interaction patch and connect it to Dismiss Screen Boomerangs. Let's give that a go. So clicking on this cross should take us back to the main screen, and clicking on the thumbnail should take us back to boomerangs, and so on. So one minor detail was that the boomerangs actually come out from the side in this prototype, whereas in the real app they come from the bottom. Screens in Origami support both of these transition types. So let's go to the transition property of our Screen Boomerangs and change that from push to modal. Alright, so let's give that a go. So now clicking on the thumbnail should bring up boomerangs from the bottom, and clicking on the cross should take us back down to the camera. Perfect. Alright, so our last screen is a closer look at the first photo, called Screen Share. Like before, we've already set up a hit area for this, called Open Share. Let me just turn that on so you can see what it looks like. Let's add this screen to our flow by hovering over Open Share, clicking on Touch, and then Tap. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit lower, and maybe even a little bit lower just so we can organize our patch editor. Like before, let's connect the tap output of this to present our Screen Share. Alright, so tapping on this photo should now take us to the share screen. The last screen transition we want to add is returning back to Screen Boomerangs. And again, we've already set up a hit area for this under Screen Share, called Dismiss Share. Let's hover over the Dismiss Share, click on Touch, and then Tap. I'm going to bring this down. And then let's connect the tap output of this new interaction to Dismiss Screen Share. Cool. Alright, so let's put it to a test. So we should have our whole screen flow worked out here. Perfect. Anything we want to do within screens is still just as easy. For example, we can make this grid scrollable. It goes beyond the height of the viewer with a few more boomerangs. So let's make that happen. To make the boomerangs layer scrollable, let's open up Screen Boomerangs. I'm going to close this one first. Hover over the boomerangs layer, click on Touch, and then scroll Y, since this is a vertical scroll. I'm just going to move this off to the side, give this a test. So scrolling works perfectly here, And we can even go to different screens and it'll remember our scrolling position. Lastly, as a little bonus, I showed a little offset between these two screens at the introduction of this tutorial. That's standard iOS behavior, and to make that happen, we need to first know what the screen share offset is. So let's hover over our screen share, click on touch, and then click on the X offset output. I'm going to drag this up a little bit. You can see this offset change as we go between these two screens. We can then connect this outputted value to the X offset of the screen boomerangs. Now when we go between screens, the outputted screen share offset affects the screen boomerangs offset input too. Alright, so that's it for screens in this tutorial. Check out the examples or the files that come with this tutorial to play around with them a little bit more.